Welcome to the Awaken Your Ego podcast, where we embark on a transformative journey towards unleashing your highest potential. I'm your host, Joann, and I'm thrilled to guide you through discussions that delve into the realms of physical, mental, and spiritual wellness.
Brenna here. Join us as we unravel the mysteries of wellness, offering insights and practical tips to enhance your overall health. From rejuvenating your body to nurturing your mind and spirit, our conversations will cover a holistic approach to well-being.
I'm one of your hosts, Ariana. Discover alternative health strategies aimed at optimizing every aspect of your life. If you're ready to embark on this journey of self-discovery and well-being, tune in, open your mind, and let's awaken your ego together. Welcome to a life-changing adventure on the Awaken Your Ego podcast.
Welcome to the Awaken Your Ego podcast. Girl Talk Day, and we're all here. Welcome, guys.
Welcome. We like Girl Talk because then Brenna can get on.
Yeah,
we
it's
love
fun.
listening to Brenna.
Love chit-chatting with y'all. And today we're going to talk about limiting beliefs. In a little bit, we're going to dive in. So, I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts when we talked about this podcast about what you...
I feel like we all had kind of stuff on our mind, and it was interesting how that concept of limiting beliefs kind of applied to everything we were kind of going through at the time. So it just makes me think it must be a topic to talk about.
It's a theme.
Yeah, no, I think for me too, as of late, I've been thinking a lot about some of my negative self-talk that I was unaware that I was even really doing, and some of the beliefs that I have about life or about myself. Once I really dive in, it's wait, that doesn't really make sense. So I think that's kind of what's been top of mind for me.
But it's so subconscious too. It's normal and we don't really realize it, or we realize we do it, but it's just a continuous thing. So it's kind of hard to break out of.
Well, and then what are ways that you guys think that people are limiting themselves in ways that they don't realize?
Well,
what does that mean? How are people doing that? How are we doing that?
I feel like for me recently, what made me think of this, and it's kind of a silly example, but on my co-ed soccer team, that's a lot of fun on Sundays. Not that I am super competitive or anything like that. I have a lot of fun. I'm just always happy to be out there. But it was funny because I'm typically midfielder, defender. I'm not a goal scorer, which in the game of soccer, that is normal, but in my head,
the goal is to score,
and
right?
for sure. But as a midfielder defender, my goal is to support other people to score. But in my co-ed league, obviously, just fun. We're all having a good time. I play forward, a position that I'm not very good at. But it's funny. I had the thought whenever I'm in front of the net, I'm oh, I'm not going to make it. I'm not a goal scorer. I'm not going to make it. I have that. That is so instinctual for me. Oh, you're not going to make it. You're not going to score, which is crazy. You're in front of the net. I have just as big of a chance of scoring anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm a forward, not a big deal, but I'm not a forward, but why am I telling myself I'm not going to score before I even shoot?
Yeah.
And so it was just dawned on me what other ways in my life am I doing this? Because obviously I'm doing this in my sports, but how else am I doing this? And it was just a really funny kind of thought that.
Well, and I love that concept of how it's just, obviously it's a thought, negative thought, but that's something that you can control and redirect. So instead of saying, I'm not a goal scorer, it's almost wait, why am I limiting myself to be this girl that doesn't score? And I think it's a mechanism of you're not failing if you tell yourself you're not going to score.
Yeah.
So it's almost you're setting yourself up to not be disappointed when the negative happens. So I'm just going to shout that out and be no, I don't score. This isn't me.
This isn't me.
And it sounds, that's silly, but I think there's ways that we do that a lot in life, whether it's motherhood or the way we conduct ourselves personally or relationships. We tell ourselves what we are and what we're not. Mm-hmm. And it's a tricky thing when it's just a thought, because you end up manifesting that thought.
How you think is how you are.
But it's a place of comfort. So in a sense, it's where did this start? Why am I comfortable in this place? And obviously we know that there's no growth there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, and I'm not trying to develop myself as a 30-year-old athlete, but...
You could be.
I could be. No, but I love playing soccer because it's fun, but it's just funny because I think... how you think is how you act. And a lot of times in other sports, I tell myself, I will hype myself up. I'll be you got this. You're going to kill it. You're way better than this girl. In my head. But I'm but why is it when I have the opportunity to be successful, oh, I'm not going to score.
I think it's almost similar to when people say, like, that's too expensive. Seems, very mild, gentle thing to say, like, oh, that's expensive. But it's like you're ultimately telling your mind, that's too expensive for me. I am not going to have that. And so for me, I've been trying to be very conscientious of those little things that you say that maybe you don't think as a manifestation. You're like, oh, this is just a fact. But it's also telling your brain, this isn't for me. And you're pushing it away.
Yes.
And you're also telling the universe, like, I don't want that. I don't deserve it. I don't need it. It's too expensive.
So subconscious.
In whatever way. I mean, it's not just with money, but I feel like that's a common way that people, like,
well, especially when
themselves.
When you're hating on something too. Like, I think we've all done it. Like, oh, like, that girl has a nice purse. Like, I would never spend that much money on a purse. Which, like, whatever. Don't spend that much money on a purse. Like, do you? But it's also like, oh, like, I'm already disqualifying myself from having a nice purse, which I probably wouldn't anyway. But I'm disqualifying myself before anyone else disqualifies me. So I'm going to tell you before you tell me because I already know. So I win, which is dumb.
Yeah.
Like, really weird.
So where do you think our limiting beliefs originate from?
Well, I think it's experience. I think it's protection. Like, I think it's a way that we protect ourselves, like, or from experiences. So I think, but it's definitely based on, like, your experiences and where you're from.
I think it's a way to shield from shame of, like your goal example, right? Of, like, oh, I'm just going to neg it and assume I'm not going to do it. Then it'll be a great surprise if I do, but I'm not going to be sad if I don't score because I already know I'm not a scorer, right? And that's, like, a silly, small example. But I feel like we develop those protections and those limitations based on, like, life experience, what your parents told you should have and you can't have, how you interpret the world based on, like, what type of people get certain opportunities and what people don't. But I think it's more of, like, a learned thing.
Behavior.
Survival technique. I agree.
What limiting beliefs do you guys feel like you have? Have you thought about those?
So I feel like for me lately, it's like when things are going right, and these are things that are like, hey, these are good things. Like, why do I feel like it's either too good to be true or that maybe something's going to happen to just kind of, like, ruin it? So I think, like, I get in my own head with that.
Like, it can't
last. Assume the negative is on its way.
Yeah. Like, oh, this is just now. Like, give it time. Maybe something will pop up and then stress you out. Or
it'll get ruined.
Yeah. So I'm obviously an overthinker, but I think that has been going on for me lately. But it's just all in my head. It's just like this negative self-talk.
For sure. Well, it's funny that you say that because I think I struggled with that too at certain points in my life. Like, after my husband had kidney failure, and, like, that was just traumatic for both of us. But I think, like, and then our marriage really struggled for a little bit. And then once we were, like, doing really well again and life was, like, flowing really well, like, I had a baby, I was so happy, like, work was going well, like, we were just, and we were like gelling so well. And I feel like there was this part of my, like, brain that was like, well, it's not gonna last. The other shoe's gonna drop. Like, it can't be this good. Like, life is never this good.
Yeah.
And I really like struggled to, like, get that out of my brain because I knew, I'm like, Brenna, like, yeah, it can be, like, you can just enjoy
living it, like, it's
your relationship and your children and motherhood. Like, I think that was also confusing to me. I'm like, I should kind of hate this. I don't know. Like, I think I had this, like, thoughts of, like, yeah, this should be harder. Yeah. I mean, it was hard, but
I think it's, like, imprinted in my nervous system, where my nervous system is just on guard, and I feel tension. Like, I'm still carrying that tension. Where now I'm trying to tell myself, like, it's okay to just chill and relax and enjoy life, enjoy things, be present. But there's just always this little, like this hunch in my back, like, no, bitch, something's coming. You gotta be ready.
For sure. What are you, Ariana?
I'm trying to think of, like, a way, like, I think mine are very subtle. I try really hard to have this mental fortitude to really believe that I can accomplish whatever I set my mind to. And if I'm not accomplishing one of my goals, it's because it's not a priority enough yet and I don't have a plan to get there. But I think that's where I think limiting beliefs is such an important topic, because there are still subtle ways where I'm keeping myself from obtaining an end goal through, like, for me, it's the little subtleties I say. Like, I can't, I won't, I wish, I hope. I'm trying to take those, like, phrases out of my vocabulary. Because, like, for instance, whenever I say, like, oh, I wish I had that, it's like I'm telling the universe, I don't have it. I don't really think I can have it, but I'm gonna wish, but I'm automatically
maybe
making
it'll
myself.
Happen.
And so it's like I never rely on wishes or hope. It's like I want to manifest like what I want to manifest. So I'm trying to like clean up my vocabulary and my thoughts so I'm not negging any possible awesome things that can come my way. I think for me, kind of like Joann was saying, it's more of like those sneaky negative thoughts that like come into my mind. Like if my kids are acting up or I'm working a lot one week and I have to work a little bit more, I automatically am down on myself. Like, you're a bad mom. Why aren't you prioritizing your children? You say they're the most important thing to you and you're not like spending enough time with them, or my relationship, like, what are you guys doing? You haven't spent time together. Or I always feel like I should be doing more than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I know I'm a very high functioning, high value person. So it's like, Ariana, like, chill out, like, give yourself grace, like, give yourself a moment to plan. When you feel like these negative thoughts, I have to take a step back and prioritize and fit things into my schedule so that I can make sure I'm hitting all those aspects of life.
Yeah.
I think with the way I think, I get really sucked into something and that's my focus and I want to problem solve and figure out that problem, and like other things can kind of fall away. They don't feel as important. But knowing I have very different aspects of my life that are important to me, it's like I have to prioritize them and take a step back. So I think taking a step back, being present it's always been hard for me, but I'm trying to be more conscientious about it and to get rid of those negative kind of things that pop into my brain.
Yeah. So it sounds like for you, it's definitely like your everyday self-talk, like getting rid of, like cleaning up the words that you say about yourself. And then also when you get in the modes of like hyper functioning or like overcompensating, that you're like listening to like the thoughts that you're saying about yourself, like you're a terrible mother, so then you keep working more, like, or you keep doing like more so you can soothe your anxiety or whatever it is, whatever belief it is about yourself.
Well, exactly. And so for me, it's almost like viewing those negative thoughts as a sign to step back and reanalyze instead of diving into them more and getting down on myself.
For sure.
And I don't know if that falls into the concept of limiting beliefs, but I think that's the way I limit myself in feeling content and feeling happy and feeling good with my efforts. And I feel like what helps me is like diving into like knowing that I'm a good mom, knowing that I'm a successful person, knowing that I'm working on having an awesome relationship. And so if I know that for a fact, anytime that weird negative thought pops into my head, I'm like, no, I'm a good mom. Like, I know I'm a really good mom and I give a lot of love and effort and time, hard. But I'm falling out of balance and I need to like figure that out again.
Yeah,
for sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and that's funny because that's exactly, even we talked about it when we were talking about this episode. It's how I've been feeling too. It's not like my limiting beliefs are like, oh, you can't do this. But sometimes when I'm stressed or I feel anxious, and as of late, like I've felt a lot of anxiety, and I'm not really an anxious person. It actually makes me very uncomfortable to be like anxious in my body. I don't handle it well. So when I'm anxious, I'm like, what is going on? It's my hormones. I'm going to start my period. I'm like already trying to find a reason for why I'm feeling anxious. Like, is it my hormones? And it's like, maybe, but like it also is like things in my life. And I realized as of late, like I will talk to myself and be like, oh, you're so unorganized. You always forget things. And like, oh, you always forget this. Like, and I can be a forgetful person. I can be a little scattered, but it's like I realized I was talking to myself in a way that it's like I was telling people how incompetent I am. And I'm like, why am I setting myself to be this kind of like forgetful person who's unorganized? And it's like, oh, thanks for reminding me. I always forget everything, which thanks. I have friends who remind me and it's really helpful. But it's like, why am I telling people, why am I presenting in the world this way?
Yeah.
Like,
why are you claiming that?
Why am I claiming this as me? Like, I don't want, and then it dawned on me, like, you don't want to claim this. Like, this isn't the person you want to be. And the anxiety was coming because I wasn't being organized. I like would come to work and I would make this big list of everything I need to do. And instead of tackling the things that were really important, like higher on the priority list, I was tackling maybe some of the other things on the list because, one, it was easier for me to do. Yeah. But also,
short, fun tasks.
And it was more interesting, right? And it's like, why am I avoiding important things because this is just what's giving me anxiety. Like doing all the things I'm not necessarily need to do and avoiding the things I have, like needs to happen. And it's like, this is the root, girl. Like,
the cycle.
But you get to use the excuse that, oh, I'm so busy at work. Oh, I'm doing so much. Oh, like,
it's okay, I forgot.
I forgot, like, but look at all this list of all this stuff I'm accomplishing. And it's like, I had to get over my own bullshit of like, girl, like, you're not... Yes, you're great. You get a gold star. You came to work. Yes, gold star, you're doing all these things. But it's like, if you're not really tackling the hard things first, it's like, then it gives me more anxiety. So it was just like the thought process for me was like, okay, I'm going to come to work. I'm going to make my list. I'm going to do hard things first on my list.
Yeah.
I'm going to
be more intentional.
I'm going to be more intentional. And it's like all week, it's like, I can do hard things easily. Like that was like.
That's your mantra.
My mantra is like, I can do hard things easily. I tackle hard things first. Like.
I love that. And see how you switch from, oh, I'm always forgetful. I'm always disorganized to that, you know, completely different mindset shift. And obviously you're still you're still working on becoming that person, but instead of saying I am this, you're saying I'm becoming this. Like I can be organized. And this is a silly example, but my son this week, he forgot his math book a couple days, therefore he couldn't actually do his homework those nights. And it's really convenient because he hates homework. So I'm like, this is not surprising that it wasn't on your priority list to bring it home. And so I was talking to him. I was like, all right, D, tomorrow we're going to get our math book, put it in our backpack so you don't forget, so we can like catch up on all this homework.
Yeah.
And he's like, Mom, I can't. And I was like, dude, I can't let you say I can't. First of all, like we don't say that in the Alkire home. Like you can't. I'm like, D, you remember a lot of things. You can, you're choosing not to, and there's a big difference. I'm like, but quit telling yourself I can't, because you're telling your brain this isn't important. It's fine if I forget it again. I'm like, what's a way that we can? What will help you remember so that you can succeed and do what you know you need to do? And I was like, I suggest, why don't we make a little note for yourself? I'll make a note and write, don't forget your book, and I'll put it in your laptop because you're going to use it inevitably. And he's like, I don't think that'll work. I just can't remember. And he was just so distraught. I'm like, all right, well, believe in yourself. Let's see. I believe you can. Like, I really think you can.
Yeah.
Last night, I get home. I was like, hey, do you remember your book? He's like, yeah. I was like, did my note help you? Because I was all excited to say, oh, my little effort, like, helped you. And he was like, no, I just remembered. I was like, oh, so you can. Oh, my gosh. Like, so you actually can remember things. Like, that's fantastic. But it's like a silly, simple moment, childlike moment, obviously. But I feel like that applies to us as adults, too. There's ways that we say, sure, I can't, or I would never.
See, I feel like what I struggle with my thoughts, it's not like directly like me, like, oh, I can't do this. It's more so like the external towards me, in the sense of like, and I feel like I feel this the most with my family. And I feel like when... like, to name it, it's when I'm not considered. If something is done to where it's like, oh, someone used something of mine or they didn't consider me, the story that I play into is, they just don't care about me. Like, no one cares about you like you care about them.
Yeah.
I know
it's like a confirming belief.
Yes, and I know that stems from my childhood, but that I feel like is the hardest for me because I have to kind of shift that. And it's like, no, I am loved. I am cared about, I am appreciated, but it's just my brain works a little bit differently where I can consider other people, but if they don't consider me the same way, I can't take it so personally.
Well, it's like not personalizing their actions, and I think that's a big deal.
But it's just the first thought is just like, oh, they don't care about you, Joann. But I'm like, you know what? Yes, they do.
But think of the way that limits you, right?
Yeah,
like if you feel
100%.
inconsiderate, it makes you not want to talk to them. It makes you feel annoyed. It makes you not want to bond. It's like that in and of itself is, it's super limiting.
Because I feel like my defense mechanism, or I guess my survival mode, is to just be like, you know what, don't care. It doesn't matter. Like, you don't want to care. But then I'm like, well, I mean, I'm a loving person, so I don't want to be like cold-hearted. But it's like this internal thing that I struggle with. So then it's like when someone is showing me care and consideration and affection, I feel like, okay, what's gonna happen?
You
like,
don't trust it.
Yeah, like,
so
give it a couple of months or whatever. Like,
you can't even
accept
the positive. Well, I think it's interesting too, like with your family, it's like you're almost setting them up for failure too. Like when you're like, they don't care about me. So even when they are doing things like, oh, hey, Joann, like let me, like when you aren't asking them for something,
you'll like trust it.
You don't trust it, or you're like, oh, thanks, but you can't even recognize because your belief system is already, they don't have my back.
Yeah.
So even if they were to give you, they had your back every day, they were giving you a gift, you'd be like, okay, normal, whatever. And then as soon as you do it, it's like we're setting them up for failure too.
Yeah.
I think I do that with my parents or like family too. And until I've dived in, it's like they can't win. Like even I've set them up so they can't win.
And you can't be disappointed.
And I can't be disappointed. And I'm protecting my heart. Like,
yeah.
Well, and I think, and this is something I talked about, maybe it's a little obtuse or abstract to mention, but I feel like lately I've been diving into why is it so hard for me to spend time on me? It's like I will keep myself super busy at all times. I will take care of my kids, do work. I will take care of the house. I'll make sure my husband's okay. And it's like I'm the last person on my list to check in with. I'm good at making goals and looking ahead for like kind of tangible things, but I think my own, like, how are you, Ariana? Are you tired? Do you need to take a break? Do you need to maybe take some things off your list? Like how do you feel? Yeah. I think I don't do that. And I guess for me, I'm realizing the finding I had is like, I feel like that stems back to childhood in a big family. I felt so much worth helping other people. And my parents didn't have a lot of bandwidth to cater to me or ask me, how was your day? Like, how are you feeling? It's like, we got 8 mouths to feed, like, let's go. And so I think as the oldest daughter, I naturally stepped in and I was more of a caretaker and trying to nurture my siblings and give them the love that I didn't feel like I had. And so now as an adult, I don't even feel like worth my own time. Like I'm the weird one that doesn't get attention, affection, love. I should be giving that outward to everyone else because that's more worthwhile. And obviously as a kid, like that gave me a way to stand out. That got me, pats on the back. It felt really good. And so it's realizing how much I get off on like helping other people.
Yeah.
And I don't assume
like,
anyone wants to cater to me.
I don't assume
I don't assume that I should it's okay to spend time on myself. I feel like I'm wasting time. And in that way, I feel like it very much limits my connection and my relationship, where I'm realizing how much I kind of box myself in. So as a protection, and so even if I do have a very awesome husband, he's very doting. I know he loves me. Like, I know he wants to like do nice things for me, but most of the time I just don't let him.
Yeah.
And when he tries, kind of like the example you were saying with Joann, I'm like, I don't trust it. I'm like, what do you want? Like, what do you want from me? Like, what's
you're trying to?
Why are you trying to serve me?
And
but in that way, like, it ruins that connection, my ability to like rely on someone or to let them fuel me and feed me, like
Intimacy.
that breeds connection. Intimacy. Yes, I've boxed myself off from that. And that's what I want. Ultimately is I want vulnerability. I want connection. I want intimacy so badly, yet I've had this mechanism from childhood where I'm like not allowing it. And it's silly, but even just knowing that awareness that I'm living that mechanism, it kind of has softened me a little bit. I'm like more receptive to it. I'm more aware of ways that I'm limiting myself from the connection I actually want.
Well, it's funny. I saw a video on TikTok that was like the oldest daughter, like syndrome is not an actual mental health diagnosis, but other than like a characteristic of traits of being the oldest daughter. And I like thought of you.
Why? What'd you think of?
Because you are like the oldest daughter, like that is your role. Like
I am the
you,
stereotypical.
You tick all the boxes, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's like a great thing. I think it's like it makes you, right? It's not a bad thing at all, but it just made me laugh. It's like, it's not a mental health diagnosis. I'm like, but
okay, I don't wear it like that, okay?
No, but just like you're saying, like, because I feel the same way. Even the example of me saying like, oh, I feel so scattered, and it's like for me, what was I saying?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she feels scattered.
Irony. No, but it's like I'm wearing this hat.
And you're owning it.
And I'm owning it. I'm living it. And my self-talk, I was going somewhere with it, and I am scattered.
Well, you're saying how my oldest daughter syndrome.
I forgot. It was there. It was there. It was right there. I forgot it. This is actually so funny and ironic.
It's okay. It's okay. We can cut that out.
I'm a little scattered. No, I think it was more just like the same thing of like, this is my BS. Oh, and how I talk to myself. And it's it kind of is the same thing. It's like I'm boxing myself from success and from my own. I'm in
You're
my own
keeping
way.
yourself as titled as scattered and disorganized, and you're literally like not surprised every time you are that way, but you're not allowing yourself to rise to a different status or a
There
different
was like literally
characteristic.
another point, but I cannot remember to save my life.
Fine.
But I think it's like seeing situations like even now, right? Instead of being like, it's like sometimes I forget. Okay.
Well, and it's not
Move on.
judging yourself. I think for me,
Releasing the
even having
judgment.
this finding, right, it's been a big deal actually for me in a lot of ways, because I think I also keep myself from feeling the love that and concern my kids have for me. Even it's like I don't allow it.
Yeah.
And it's like I had this finding, and I was kind of sick, and I like lost. You heard on the last podcast, lost my voice. Like I didn't feel good. I felt like really crappy, and it's like I started to notice ways where like Dee would like rub my back or try to console me, or like Sawyer would ask, "How are you today, Mom? Do you feel better?" And I'm like, wow, I have really sweet kids. I just never interpret it as that. Like they're actually trying to care for me. Instead, as a strong parent, I'm like, I'm fine. Yeah, go. Like, don't worry about me.
Yeah.
Like, forget about me. Like, I think I'm constantly trying to nag myself and not be a concern to anyone, because that saves me from feeling like no one's considering me.
Yeah.
And so it is this ultimate protection. And I think it has served me in life, where I'm not waiting for someone to come give me a pat on the back or take care of me. And so I'm grateful for it. Like the strength and the mental like kind of fortitude I've had, but I'm ready to welcome this softness. I'm ready to welcome the vulnerability. I'm ready to trust that people do want to love me and care for me just because I exist, not because they're trying to get something, if that makes sense.
No, for sure.
But
And I feel like a lot of moms kind of feel like that in general, you know, it's like you have to, well, I mean,
You gotta be the
especially in
strong one.
2024,
yeah.
you know, you have your spouse that you need to spend time with and kind of tend to their needs, and then your children as well, and then plus in the home. And then if you're a working mom, you know, that's a lot more on your plate. So I feel like just in general, females, women, mothers, we have to kind of throw ourselves in the back seat, because there's so much to do and so much that is a priority for us that we kind of just neglect ourselves.
When think about how we were raised with our parents and their generation, where emotions weren't the important thing. It was surviving, getting things done, getting to the next thing. It wasn't like, how are you feeling? And maybe this is just speaking for my own household, but it's like we were so busy ticking the boxes and checking things off that it wasn't like there was no check-in time.
Yeah.
So that just feels very unnatural to me, and I've had to develop that over, you know, in my adult life. But it's like realizing like we're all emotional beings. Our kids have emotions. We have emotions. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like a Latin mom thing, but it's like emotions just weren't allowed. And I know we've talked about that before. It was like, okay, get over it. Go cry in your room. Come back when you're ready. But it's like allowing it with yourself.
Well, I think with that too, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, Brenna.
Brenna's a little off today.
I am,
That's
like,
okay.
she's slow. I
She's
didn't
becoming
finish my...
unscattered.
I didn't finish my caffeine in the morning. Oh my gosh, Brenna. What is going on? No, but I think, I was talking about mom. I love my mom, and I think it's funny when I look at my mom as a kid, like through my own eyes, not like what was actually reality, because I was a kid. Looking through my own reality, I remember just feeling like I saw my mom as really busy. Like I saw 6 kids, I was like, dang, this girl's busy. Like she's driving us all around. And I think all I wanted for her was like to take care of herself. Like I wish that I saw a woman that was able to like go. Now she plays tennis all the time. Like now she's like living her best life. And I think as a kid, it's like, that's what I wanted for her. And then here I am a working mom. But it's like I'm doing the same thing. Like I'm not taking care of myself.
Well, and you like think of when you're young, it's like you loved having fun with your family, your parents. Like it's like all I wanted was to see her happy. I feel like she's such a fun-loving person. She has a great personality, great humor, and we didn't get to experience that side of her because she wasn't allowing herself to kind of wind down and get relaxed and to just be herself.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of women are like, there's just more to do. I got to keep going. Like, it doesn't matter. And so for her, I think instead of just being present and finding time to enjoy the life that she created and that she was in and the family that she had, she was busy just trying to keep that family surviving.
Yeah. You know, and I think it's like I do the same thing. I think now I'm at this age where I'm realizing like I'm doing the same thing even though it looks different. Like it's very much the same mechanism. Yeah. And it's like unless I have to slow down with my kids. I have to set boundaries and limits when it comes to work and when it comes to home. I need to be more present, and I need to show my kids that like, this is how you take care of yourself. This is how you decompress at the end of the day.
Well, and every time you have fun or enjoy, it's like, wow, women can be happy. You're incorporating this belief in their minds, like, oh wow, it's okay for adults to play co-ed sports at 33 years old. Like, that's normal. Like, I guess I love showing my kids that I can have a good time, and I can even have a good time when they're around. I can have a good time when they're not around. It's like, that should be a priority, like enjoying life, enjoying conversations,
showing
like
them how to
doing
do that.
fun things.
And that's what I've been thinking. That's what's been on my mind lately. It was like, whatever my intention is of how the mother I kind of want to be, but what is actual reality? What am I doing when I get home from work? And I think I was going through a phase of like just being on my phone a lot, or like, you know, trying to turn my brain off while they're watching cartoons or whatever. And I was like, so if my intention is to be this like present, awesome mom, but every time I get home, my kids see this woman who's like exhausted after work, a little irritable, and kind of like, give me a freaking second. And then like on her phone, just like, I'm teaching them that. Like, they're going to be like, yeah, this is normal behavior. And it's like, I think I really had to just look at myself and like, are you showing yes, your intentions are there, but your actions are not even close.
For sure.
And so it's like, I had to call myself out on it, I guess.
And I think in motherhood too, it's like, I love being busy, right? So if I'm constantly doing something, I feel like, cool, I'm contributing, this is great, I'm checking off boxes. But it's realizing it's not all about accomplishing the tasks and pushing it forward. It's about the feelings that are there, like the moments that we're creating. It's like, the kids won't care that they were always fed, always clothed, the house was clean. I'm sure they'll appreciate it, but it's like, they'll remember those little trips or those talks or those hugs. Like, they'll remember the feeling that existed in the home. And I want to create a feeling in my home that's healthy, that they'll want to recreate for themselves.
Because they're absorbing the feeling more than they are
100%.
probably a lot of what I'm telling them.
All the details.
We're like, oh, we should do this. And I think, yes, 100%. It's like, if I need to embody this feeling, I can't just like say I want this for myself.
And fool yourself. Like, if you were to say, like, say 2 weeks ago, like, I am so organized. And you're telling yourself this because you know that's what you want.
I want this to be my truth.
But then you're not acting in that way. It's like you're constantly letting yourself down. Instead of, I'm becoming organized, these are things I'm doing to make sure I can obtain this goal.
100%.
And then you can see your progress. You know? It's like not fooling yourself, but having goals that you're becoming and obtaining, and giving yourself grace to get there.
That feels terrible when you feel like you're lying to yourself. Like, there's a part of you that knows that it's not true. And I think that's what was causing me this anxiety of like, oh, I'm this productive person, but here I am not being productive. And I think that's what was that, like, kind of not
Feels uncomfortable.
misalignment, like, felt very uncomfortable for me until I was like, oh, like, girl, like, you are misaligned. Like, you need to. And I think too, it's like where your self-worth comes from. And
True.
I think it's like, when we're talking about work or motherhood or whatever, it's like my self-worth is so wrapped up in my ability to be a mother and be a hard worker that it's like, so when I'm not those things, I am like, oh, you're such an idiot. Why can't you do this? Da, da, da. And it's like, my self-worth is tied up in all of these things that has no business being tied up in.
Well, and it's like disconnecting your self-worth from what you're doing and connecting your self-worth to your being.
Yes.
And I think for me, it's like, I've been very conscientious with that when, you know, thinking about the concept of worth in general, where it's like, I should be able to sit at this table and feel myself, like, know that I'm worthy of being here and existing, and trust that people also feel my worth. And I don't have to do anything. I don't have to say anything. I don't have to accomplish anything. It's like, by being born, you have divine worth. Like, you just do. Yeah. And at what point did we start thinking like, I have to perform to get accolade? I need to do X, Y, and Z and follow these rules in order to have worth. And it's such a lie. And it's like I just think it's very learned, because a baby just wants. They just, they only speak up when they have a want. And as adults, we like feel awkward saying what we want. Yeah.
Well, I think with children, like, the two basic needs is to have your needs met and to be accepted for who you are. So if the environment that you grow up in, if either of those two needs are not met, then we start to develop these, survival techniques. It's like, oh, okay, well, they're not giving me what I need, so I need to do it myself, or, you know, I'm not being accepted. I need to mold myself so that way they can praise me and give me attention and love and care.
Love that, yeah.
Well, and I think it's so important, like, finding, it kind of depersonalizes everything, too. It kind of depersonalizes the world of, like, so now if I'm feeling scattered, it's not because I'm an idiot. Like, it's not because I'm not smart,
because
right?
I'm a horrible person.
It's not any
You're
of those
brilliant.
things. It's because I'm not aligned with what my purpose is. Like, if my purpose is to be a highly productive person and to meet these goals, like say they are at work, then I need to be doing these actions. It's not like, oh, you're a terrible person. So it's like you're kind of like separating yourself from your actions too, because your worth is not in question. So we don't need to personalize everything. Like, we can just be worthy as is. And it's like, I always try and remind myself, like, how I see my children is how I need to see myself, of like, they were perfect when they came out. Like, there was nothing wrong with them. Like, they were, with all their little birthmarks and wonky whatevers, like, they're perfect. Like, it's not.
Well, it's interesting because, like, Sawyer, she's in 3rd grade, my daughter, and she, lately, you know, they're at that age where they're figuring out their personalities, they're trying to figure out what they have control over, and girls can just be kind of catty, right? Or, like, get jealous and want to nag you. So, which, this is not a belief I have, it's just kind of what I'm observing with Sawyer. But sometimes girls will kind of make these comments or say things about her. Or recently a boy called her name and she got really offended. And I'm just like, Sawyer, stop caring, honey. Like, you know who you are and that I know who you are. You're not X, Y, and Z of what he's saying. So why are you even letting yourself have any feelings? Like, why are you letting him question who you are when you already know that's not the type of person that you are and that's not how you present? So don't let him tear you down and gaslight you and question who you are as a being because he's just nagging you for who knows why.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of the time as adults even, we get trapped, like whether it's someone we respect and they make a comment or criticize and then we're like, oh my gosh, it can shatter you. But it's like, I think the goal is knowing who you are well enough so that if someone does question or call you out or call you a name, it doesn't have to be personal. It's like, okay, you think that. I know I'm not like that, so I'm going to keep moving on. Or, thanks, Brenna, for the feedback. Let me think about it and see ways that I'm coming off that way.
Yeah.
Not my intention, but obviously I need to make some adjustments so I'm not like presenting in whatever way, you know, you're being called, if that makes sense. Sorry, that was like a long train of thought. But
No, it's good.
Looking to boost your energy and vitality? Try liposomal NAD from Ego Beauty and Wellness. With liposomal technology for optimal absorption, experience enhanced energy and cellular rejuvenation. Liposomal NAD, available at Ego Beauty and Wellness. Discover vitality. Visit www.egodefine.com to learn more and purchase.
Are you ready for a brighter future? Do you want to turn your dreams into reality? It all starts with setting SMART goals that propel you towards success. Hi, I'm Joann, a holistic health coach with Ego Beauty and Wellness, and I've created the Ultimate Goal Setting Workbook, the key to unlocking your full potential. Picture this, you achieving your wildest aspirations. It all begins with setting clear, actionable goals. That's why I've crafted a unique guide that transforms your dreams into a roadmap for success. I help break down the journey into achievable milestones, ensuring that you stay focused and motivated. Imagine the person you'll become when you set and achieve your goals with the Ultimate Goal Setting Workbook. It's not just about reaching the destination, it's about the journey of self-discovery and growth. Make this your year for breakthroughs. Start your journey with the Ultimate Goal Setting Workbook, where dreams meet reality. Visit our website at www.egodefine.com or call us now to kickstart your success journey. Your goals are within reach, and Ego is here to help you grab them.
Do you guys watch Love is Blind?
No.
yes.
Oh my, Joann, watch it. It's so good. No, but it kind of makes me think about that, how like a lot of the relationships, like there was one video, and I love watching the TikToks talking about the show too. But it was like this one guy was like kind of coming to her, like his concerns, and he's like, oh, well, I was talking to one of the other girls about this, and like she's worried about this, like what do you think? And she's kind of like, well, I mean, if she's concerned about that, then like for sure, but is this coming from a place of good intent? Like, where's this coming from? But it was just kind of funny because it's like, this was his concern and he wasn't owning his feelings of like what he actually meant. And so it was like this kind of sneaky way to be like, yeah, like, she's worried about it. Like, what do you think? And it's like, own your shit. Like, you're worried about it. You're the one that's concerned about it. And I think sometimes it's like, we have to own what we feel too.
Yeah.
Instead, so we're not just like projecting on everyone in the world. Because it's like, but I think that's part of like realizing like people with, they're not owning their emotions and how they feel. We can't, like, it's like, okay, I'll take it into consideration, but like, I know me.
Yeah. It's like you can't protect your emotions without by pretending you don't have any. You know, it's like they're there. It's human to feel things, and as humans, we feel a broad spectrum of emotions.
Like, you should feel upset over certain things. Like, you should. Yeah, I can understand why you would be upset by that. Like, that makes sense. So anyway,
but I think sometimes it is easier. Like, it would be easier for me, right? Technically to say, oh, well, Joann was wondering if we're doing this, but why? You know, why can't I just say, hey, are we, you know, doing X, Y, and Z? I feel like even just passing the responsibility to someone else is kind of messed up.
But maybe, you know, it goes back to like the needs of the childhood. Maybe expressing themselves was like a negative thing. Yeah, like maybe they were criticized for it or not accepted for their thoughts
or shut down when they asked a question. Like, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I notice when I have to like confront someone over something, especially at work, like, hey, like, you're late or whatever, like that kind of stuff, that it does make me uncomfortable, like kind of having to talk to adults about how to
be an adult.
Right? Yeah. But it's like, I think I will over explain and be like, oh, but it's okay, like, I understand, like, da-da-da. And it's like, girl, like, just, you don't need to over explain. All you need to say is like what you need to say, and then they can say whatever they need to say.
Well, it's because you're trying to control the outcome, you're trying to give them grace, you're trying to do it all for them, when in reality, like, we can't control how people perceive us. We have no idea kind of the information they're downloading from what you're saying, because everyone has their own set of experiences, their own set of beliefs. So it's like, why are we trying to sugarcoat it when maybe they wouldn't take it negative? You know?
And you're totally right. It's like, I'm trying to control the outcome and make it a positive conversation. When I found that there have been times where I wasn't clear on what I actually was trying to talk about because I was so busy about trying to make it comfortable, that like later she was like, wait, what? Like, that's not what was said. And it's like, that was on me because I wasn't even being clear because I was so worried. Well,
you were so anxious about giving a direct request
that the message
that you couldn't get a direct result. It's like, it's too fluffy and convoluted to even know, like, wait, did you actually mean that? Like, I don't know.
And the older I get, the more I realize, like, my job is to do my job. My job as a manager is to make sure the office runs smoothly, to make sure people's, you know, are heard, it's a happy workplace. My job is to confront these issues so we can get over them and be good, or make the office run better. My job, like, no matter how I communicate this, which I think I communicate pretty nicely, but it's like, have your own life experiences. You're going to go home and you're going to think what you're going to think. I have no control over that.
It's such a waste of energy and a losing game because, like I said, even if you said everything perfectly and you're so sweet and so nice, if someone already has negative self-talk and it's just confirming their negative beliefs, they're just going to take it negative. Or if
they don't like me, they're going to be
I'm always like, oh my gosh, and now she's talking to me about it, and now she's thinking all these awful things about me. It's like, you have no idea where someone's mind can dive. Yeah. So it's like, why waste the energy trying to force it to end up a certain way?
And it's not personal, right? Yeah. And so it's like, if I have a conversation with you, say it's about being late or whatever, I'm being on time, and if you think I'm being this crazy unreasonable person and I think I'm being completely reasonable, at the end of the day, our purposes don't align. Yeah. We don't align. So it's like, my goal from what I do is this, and what yours is different, which is 100% fine. But we don't align, so let's cut it.
Well, it makes me think of, like, traffic. You know, people get so mad in traffic, and they're yelling and making faces and putting their hands up, and it's like, ultimately, like, I think when I was a new driver, I would feel really awkward and, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. Was I not paying attention? And now as an adult, seeing these emotionally constipated people freaking out in traffic to people they don't even know and are never going to see again, it's like, oh, that's a you thing. Like, there's something going wrong with you today. You want this to be the reason why you're upset. Okay, when you're the one that went early on the stop sign. So you're getting yourself all riled up and yelling at me when you actually made the wrong move, but I'm not going to let it ruin my day. But it's like, that's a projection, I feel like, And sometimes we want to find reasons to be mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We want to be in our bullshit.
But it doesn't mean it's right. You know, I feel like it's just, yeah, that kind of stuff like pisses me off.
So what advice would you have for someone who's facing self-sabotage and how they can improve their self-confidence?
I think the more that we tune into ourselves and our feelings, and we know that emotions are a signal and not a state of being, I feel like that can really help you dial in, like, what am I feeling? But I think the biggest thing is like knowing yourself, dedicating time to knowing yourself, whether that's meditation, journaling, seeing someone like a counselor or something like that. But it's like getting to know yourself well enough that you can create boundaries. What in personal life, like at your home, as a wife, as a working person, as an individual. It's like, what are things I always do? What are things I will never do? I need to at least know those broad boundaries.
Yeah.
And then I can dial in and get more detailed of like how I respond in specific situations. But like know yourself well enough so that you can create boundaries, and you can know, then you know what you are supposed to be allowing and accepting and what you should be kind of pushing away. And I feel like that also comes to like interpersonal relationships, like whether it's a boyfriend, husband, a friend, a sister, a mother. It's like, what do I want out of this kind of relationship? And what does a successful one look like? It's like, give myself those boundaries so that I can view the relationship that we have, see ways that I'm putting effort in and how it's successful, and then also see ways that we can improve. But if I don't have it like a framework in my mind of what a successful whatever relationship looks like, then I'm setting myself up to fail, and I'm setting that other person up to fail.
Yeah.
Because then I'm just going to constantly confirm either really negative beliefs or very positive beliefs, but either way it's a fantasy because I can't observe everything in reality.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. 100%.
It's very spot on. I agree. Well, and I was going to say like self-worth, like knowing your self-worth, but I think it's almost like when you create those boundaries, it also creates more self-worth, like of like, oh, I don't accept people to talk to me in this way. Like, I don't accept people to yell at me. I don't accept people to disrespect me in this way. It's like you almost have more respect for yourself.
And
like,
it's easy. It's easy for you when someone's freaking out on you and yelling in your face to be like, hey, this is not how I allow people to communicate with me. Bye. Come back when you're ready.
Go over here.
And then you don't even have to get mad or question it. It's like, nope, this is not what I'm going to allow in my life. It's like an easier choice when you have that boundary set up.
But I think it's equally important that whatever it is that you expect from that person, you honor the same thing.
100%.
So it's kind of like what you want from someone else, you have to be willing to do yourself. So in a sense, it's like you're attracting your people, and you can be able to differentiate who can do that for you and who won't.
For sure.
Well, and it's like, think about it. I'm always surprised at adults that haven't set aside time to establish like the good and bad things about themselves.
Yeah.
Because I think we have to observe ourselves honestly, the good and bad and ugly, everything about my being. I want to know it so I can give myself a chance to succeed and improve.
Yeah.
But if I'm only focusing on like the super negative things or only focusing on the super positive things, I'm not giving myself a good analysis of how I'm presenting to the world, how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing. But it's like, if I'm able to view the good and the bad, then it gives me power to make adjustments and become what I'm wanting to become.
100%.
And I think a lot of people shy away from either giving themselves too much praise or, you know, acknowledging the negative aspects of self in ways that maybe they aren't communicating effectively, or ways that they are projecting or victimizing themselves. It's like, we got to look at all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I think recently too, I've been thinking a lot of boundaries with myself. Like, what are my boundaries for myself? And I think boundaries are hard for me, and it's something I think about a lot. And I think I always think about like, oh, like with other people what my boundaries are, but I think it's more about what my boundaries are. And I think that's the whole point, is like what you allow, who are you? So it's like, if I say I'm an organized, productive person, I'm not going to be on my phone. I'm not going to be like, you know, not doing the important things. I'm going to be more focused. So it's like, my words are aligning with my actions.
Well, and it's like familiarizing yourself with like, so if I say I always speak in a respectful manner, I'm always kind when I'm talking to someone, then it makes it really easy for me to recognize when I'm getting out of pocket, or I'm being kind of mean, or I'm not. It's like, you have to at least know what the goal is so that you know where you're at. Yeah. And hold yourself accountable. Like, hold on, I can't have this conversation right now. I feel
loud.
I'm getting mean, I'm getting disrespectful, so I need to excuse myself. It gives you kind of a boundary to also like monitor yourself with.
100%. And I think that's the point of boundaries.
Yeah, right?
That's the point. But it's funny because this is like a lesson I relearn constantly throughout my life in different ways. It's
and
not
I don't
even,
think it stops. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's even like, what kind of relationship do you want? And if you really do have it
How to
lined
love
out,
yourself.
then you know what metrics you're looking for, and you also know what metrics you're trying to create. Like if, having time alone with my husband is really important, am I prioritizing that? Am I creating an environment where I can do that? Like, am I getting a babysitter and doing a date night kind of thing? It's like holding yourself accountable to like your aspirations of what a successful relationship looks like.
Yes. And it kind of reminds me a lot of that episode we just did with Dr. Mike of like creating a power routine, kind of what he was saying of just like, okay, if these are my goals, what am I doing every single day to get me to that goal? So if I want to be an Olympic swimmer, what am I doing every day? Like, yes, you're going to be swimming, you're going to be working out, you're going to be eating healthy. And it's kind of like creating it into your life in a way that's like, this is my routine. And if I say I want these things, this is what I need to do. It makes it very clear. And it also makes it very easy to let the other things that don't align fall aside.
One, it makes you very confident when you are in alignment. Oh, I'm hitting all my metrics. I'm doing all these things in all these different aspects of life. I am succeeding. I am winning right now. It's like easy for you to even see, am I doing a good job? I can be comfortable with my effort because I'm checking all these boxes on a regular basis with the goals that I've set. And that feels good.
Yeah.
So then if I'm anxious about something, I'm like, wait, what am I actually worried about? It's not about my daily routine or what I'm doing. It must be about, I need to dive in and figure out where this is coming from.
Yeah.
So it also mitigates ways that you can be anxious when you have things planned out. I love that Dr. Mike spoke on that and like really teaches his patients that concept.
It's like that rock analogy you were saying, the big rocks, the little rocks in the sand. It's like the big rocks are the goals, right? The big things that we want. The little rocks are the actions, right? The steps to get there. And I think the sand is like your thoughts.
Yeah.
How you talk to yourself. The little things that really do matter, but that can fill in the gaps.
100%. No, I love that analogy, and I feel like it applies to so many different things, but I think that's fair. Like if I'm building a successful life, am I doing all of those things? And are they all intertwined and correlated?
Yeah.
Like,
The one thing I wanted to, and this may be a little bit of a pivot, but I think when it comes to motherhood, a lot of women feel inadequate. We always feel like I shouldn't say we always feel this way, but I'm saying like a lot of times we feel inadequate. We feel like we're, not succeeding, or like we should be doing more. I guess as a woman, and I think when we're talking about boundaries and what success even looks like as like a successful mother, like what do you guys do? So it's like we were saying we want to be women who are, comfortable in their own skin, are awesome moms, and who like can show our kids how to take care of themselves. How do you guys take care of yourselves? And what does that look like? Like what does self-care look like for Joann right now?
So for me, I'm addicted to stress, but I like to challenge my body because in a sense it's like I can do hard things. So exercise, weightlifting is a way for me to give my body a little shock. So it's like, hey, we can do difficult. But on the other end of that, recovery is just as important. I wish I could take naps, but they don't take me. But body work, like literally caring for my body, has been really important. Shout out to Kid Ever Recovery. Body work, so body scraping, cupping. I've been doing more infrared sauna, which I think has helped me a lot. It's also very uncomfortable because I hate sweating, and I aim to be in there for about 45 minutes.
Dang, girl.
Yeah. I've also been meddling with cryotherapy too. So in the same sense as like shocking the body. Supposedly it helps with sleep, stress, that shock in the
Mental
sense is,
clarity,
yeah,
like-
when you get to that relaxation state, it's supposed to be, beneficial. Showers. I know it sounds so simple, but hot showers, that's like my time to decompress. I feel like the water just washes away all that stress. Journaling is really important for me, and I've also been getting into meditation music, frequency music, the solfeggio frequencies, to be specific. I feel like I'm very much a sensory person. I love music, so something about listening to certain frequencies and finding the frequencies that work for you. I feel like 548 really works for me. But I feel like that sound, especially when I'm journaling, it's almost like I would say to give it like 20 to 30 minutes, but I feel like as the music progresses, it kind of brings out certain emotions where I feel like, oh, okay, this is what's actually bothering me and I need to let this out. And whether it's journaling or speaking it out, it's kind of like, you know, all the stress, all the mental mess that I've been carrying throughout the day, it needs to be released somehow. Yeah. And I can tell when I'm a little more anxious than normal, I'm like, okay, I'm holding on to some shit and it's time. So I feel like those are my cues to like, I need to just step away, have my quiet time. I need to shower. I listen to the music in the shower. And then when I've had my thoughts together, I'm ready to just write it out and put it on paper. And I feel like that's been really helpful for my self-care. On top of, you know, my supplements, eating food. If I eat junk, I feel like there's a balance of food freedom. But when I'm not taking care of myself, I feel icky. So I feel like all of that together is my routine. So it sounds
like your self-care routine is like really just worked into your health and fitness routine. Like it is that, right? It's like you dedicating time to going to the gym. It's like, and that's
to go into recovery and journaling, and like you pencil yourself in.
Yes.
Like it's just it sounds like it's part of your routine. Like
I have to schedule it. I do. Because if not, if I go too long without it, I start to get like the aches and pains. And that's where I'm like, okay, my body. Because, I have OCD. I can get a lot of stuff done. But sometimes the mind-body connection isn't always there. And so I feel like I just carry that stress.
That's huge, because I think a lot of people they just take it on like, oh, I guess this is how I feel now. I guess I just live in pain every day. And you stop noticing it.
Yeah.
So I think being in tune enough with your body to know like, hey, I'm getting tense. Like I need to do something to like calm this down, instead of just, this is me now.
Yeah. I don't want to normalize that. I'm like, I'm 33. I shouldn't feel achy and, headachy all the time. So let's change that. Because it's like I really don't like when people say like, oh, it's just your age. It's like, no, I want to be playing soccer.
Yeah.
I want to be more mobile and to be more flexible. And so if right now I feel like I'm in this period where I need to just decompress because I threw myself in the backseat for too long. And now I feel like we're trying to get all of that out to where then I can become more, athletic and be able to perform better.
No, I love that. And I feel like sometimes when I make my self-care, like kind of, it's not scheduled into my routine of like, even like friendships, for example, it's like one of those things like, oh, okay, I need to have more friends. Like I want my kids to show that mom can have friends and that we can hang out with them and it's social. But it's like sometimes because it's not like scheduled into my like daily routine, it's like, I'm like, okay, well, I got to do this. Like I got to have good friendships, and then I got to have good family relationships, and then I have to have good, it's like, I'm like chasing those things, and when like opportunities arrive, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Not even thinking about what my schedule looks like, what I'm available to actually do. So then I'm overbooking myself, of like fitting in all this time because I'm trying to compensate for these things and check these boxes, versus like when it's scheduled into my daily routine, the energy is different. It's less frantic. It's more like at ease. It's more ready. So it's like, I'm doing the same things, but my kids and the energy in my home and myself is very different. Yeah. So I think it's not just about like checking those boxes.
It's like being intentional.
Being intentional, like, okay, if I want these things, because the energy is different versus when I could do all the things, but if it's last minute and I'm frantic and I'm stressed because I'm trying to fit in these things, it's like mute point. Why am I doing it?
Yeah.
Ways that I take care of myself, I feel like I definitely have this goal of being optimized. I feel like I want to be as healthy as possible. I want to look as good as possible. I want to feel as good as possible. So for me, it's like, it's really important to me to show my kids an example of health and wellness. Like that's really important to me. So my self-care, I can be very regimented on things. That's easy. I plug it in and then I do it every day and I don't drop it. So I feel like skincare, I know skin is very important. I take care of my skin very well. Supplements, I'm very regular on my supplementation. I'm always trying out different, nootropics, peptides, hormone, BHRT, like keeping that in check is really important because that makes me feel really good and operate well. Working out on a regular basis, doing fun things like you were talking about, like co-ed soccer, softball, like playing sports. And playing sports as an adult, I always thought it was just so silly. I think growing up I had a weird judgment of it, but I love it. And I love showing my kids like, you can be athletic even when you're older, and it's fun. It can be fun. It's a way to meet people and have fun. But we like hiking and doing things that are active with my kids, because I want to show them that challenging your body and doing something a little scary and difficult can actually be really fun. It might be something you want to keep doing all the time. Also very bonding. But so I think trying to get out into nature, being on top of my regimens with supplementation, working out, health, eating well. Like I get chronic migraines, and when I eat crappy, they flare up really bad. So I have to be really conscientious of what I'm putting into my body. Taking time to journal and to like be in thought and be inspired. I think that's something I always put on the back burner, but now I'm trying harder to have that be at the forefront, because I enjoy being stimulated intellectually and diving into myself, learning more about myself. My goal is always just trying to be really present. And that's a way that I feel like I'm taking care of myself, because it's not my normal to like be present and to just try to ignore everything else that's in the future that I should be cleaning or doing. So it's like when I do have opportunities with friends or even coworkers, like conversations, like just being in that moment. So for me, it's like trying to calm my mind so that I can be present for whatever that exchange is. Yeah. Because then I am more inspired and I am more excited and energized, but allowing that moment.
Yeah. Like and I think it's funny because like my self-care has changed as I've gotten older, since I've had kids, since like you work more. Like I think, and it was really hard for me as I got older, like, what does self-care look like? I don't have all this time like I used to have. And so I think a lot of women are like, what do I even like? Like, I don't know. And so...
Yeah, like, if you had a day off, what would you do? I think for so long, I had no answers. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know.
But I don't know. Yeah. And I think I'm, like, trying to be a more well-rounded person and not, like, work isn't my identity and motherhood isn't my only identity. And I love soccer for that reason too. It's like, cause I grew up playing soccer, playing college, and it's like co-ed, just fun once a week. It's like, I remember that version of myself and I love her. And even though it's not that serious, it's like, I love that, like everything Brenna, you know, just like having
was a girl
fun,
playing soccer,
loves the competition part of it, loves, you know, getting a little dirty, like, you know, being aggressive in that way, like using my body in this way. So it's like sports are like a way that I feel like I'm tapping into me. I'm a bath time girly. Like I love a warm bath. I love turning the lights off. I'll do a red light or candle light, Epsom salt. So I think that's like a way that I kind of decompress at the end of the day, or that feels like, and it feels special. Like and I listen to music. So whether it's like frequency music or just like SZA, she's my playlist. But it's like that. It's funny because it feels like when I'm going to take a bath, it's like a 30-minute bath. Like it's not, but it feels like a gift I'm giving myself. Yeah. And so my husband even too is like, all right, you're taking a bath tonight. I'm like, yes. And I just feel like a weight has been lifted.
When you're like taking care of yourself.
Taking care of myself. And it's intentional and it's like, it's luxurious. It's like, I romanticize the bath too. It's like, oh, the lights are off. I have candlelight or my red light. So
it's a vibe.
It's a vibe. I'm creating this vibe, but it's like, that's a way that in my 20s would not have been self-care. But like now as a 33-year-old woman, very much self-care.
Yeah.
You know what I find really easy and kind of sexy is red light. I feel like I got a red light to put by my bed, and so when I'm winding down or writing or on my phone, it's like I'll turn it on, take my shirt off, and just like be, you know, absorbing the red light. But I'm like, dude, it kind of sets a vibe. It's like, it feels like naughty for no reason. But also, it's just like a very easy way to give yourself some, you know, biohacking at the end of the day.
So are we getting intimate with the red light?
I mean, let's test it out. Let's see. Maybe that's what I need to do.
Double benefits.
Right. Plus, I love doing two things at once. So if I could have a red light and be doing something else, I feel so productive, and that feels good.
Highly productive woman is what she is.
Multitasking.
That's funny.
And one last question that I have for you guys then. It's like I feel like the more you're aware of yourself, the more you can start noticing things in other people. So it's like, what are ways that you can help someone realize that they are self-limiting? Whether it's a friend, a sister, someone close to you, and you want to help them see it that way. I don't know. Have you guys been in that predicament? Like, what's a nice way to help someone realize, like, this is a you thing. You're actually limiting yourself. Like,
I feel like asking questions, like specific questions, to help them kind of dive in deep. Like, why do you think that way? why do you feel, you know, like to get a little specific,
Yes.
like maybe not to like put them on blast, but in a sense it's just like, oh, can you explain a little bit why you're, you know, why are you feeling emotional? Like, what is it that's bothering you? Just to kind of help open that door to get them to think,
A little
you know?
deeper.
I feel like that might help.
Or why do you feel, even the question of like, why do you feel like you're the one that needs to fix that? Why do you feel like that's your job? I think like sometimes I'll say that to you, like, why do you feel like you need to do that? And you're like, well, I don't know, because, you know, well, whether you're, you know, but it's not like it's not because I'm like, oh, well, I'm trying to, but it's like, just think about like why you're actually, what are your intentions behind it? And I think like you're saying, it's like have them think about a little deeper, like what are your intentions behind your actions? Is it because you're trying to get closer to whatever your goal it is? Or is it because you want to make yourself feel better because you don't?
Yeah. How does it make you
I
feel?
think it's hard for me when I see someone is victimizing themselves and they're like trying to put blame everywhere else but themselves. It's hard for me not to call it out. And I think what helps me feel good about, like, obviously in a kind, respectful way, non-judgmental way, because we've all been victimized ourselves in various ways. But it's just like, I can't not do it. And I know that's in my boundaries of what a good friend is. I want my friends to call me out when I'm, you know, not speaking truth, or if I'm putting myself in a corner that I don't have to be in. Like, I would want my friends to tell me.
Yeah.
So I feel like for me, I rationalize like checking other adults on those kind of things, because I'm like, that's what a true good person would do.
Yeah.
They don't want to let you sit there and keep limiting yourself and blaming everyone else around you. But I think sometimes people get awkward when they're called out or they feel judged or criticized. And ultimately it's like, dude, I get it. Like, I've felt that way too. I've, you know, wanted to blame the world instead of like focusing on myself and actions I can do. But,
Well, it's funny because I was talking to someone about like losing weight, and because I lost 25 pounds on semaglutide, love it, whatever, we can talk about that later. But someone was talking about like, oh, well, they said I'm fat, like I should do semaglutide, and I kind of was like, one, like this person had a little weight to lose, and it's not like, why is, like, one, being fat isn't terrible, like
it's not inherently
an awful thing. Like, it is just a state of being, like at certain, like your body changes so much throughout your life, like it can change, right? Like you have control of that. So it's not something we should be like shameful about necessarily.
And that's not a good motivator for action.
It's not, so it's like through shame. That's why I'm losing weight. That's like, what? That sounds awful. But it was kind of like, she was like, oh, well, they said I'm fat, so like I'm doing this. And I'm kind of like, well, I lost 25 pounds and I thought it was great. Like, it really did help me. Like, it's super helpful. She's like, oh, yeah, well, yeah, you know, that's true. So it's like, well, don't you want to lose weight? Like, that seems like, so who cares with it? Like,
But it sounds like she doesn't have a clear motivator of why she wants to lose weight. Instead, it's like, I'm doing this for other people. I don't think I'm fat, but they told me I'm fat, so I'm going to lose weight.
But it was
instead
like,
of, I want to be healthy. I want to feel my best. It's not, it shouldn't be about what anyone else is saying.
but it's not my job for her to figure that out for
No,
her.
no,
It's
no,
not.
no.
But I was just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. This is my experience. I loved it. Like, but for sure. Like, and I didn't think I was fat. Like, I had some weight to lose. Like,
I think in a situation like that, it would be like, well, how did that make you feel? Right?
Yeah.
How does it make you feel? And then, okay, well, how would you like to feel? And then what are some steps that you could do to get there? You know, in a sense, it's like, it is kind of calling you out in a sense. Like, well, okay, do you feel fat? Are you, do you want
to lose weight?
like, is there some
say
truth to it? Okay, you do feel a little overweight. Okay, well, how do you want to feel? Oh, I want to feel confident. I want to feel that. Okay, what can you do to get yourself to feel confident and to make yourself not feel fat? Diet, exercise, semaglutide, you know what I mean? It's like, get them to answer that question for you. You're just asking that thought-provoking question.
But it's taking out the personalization of that comment.
But it's realizing, like, if we're ever offended by someone, we were triggered.
Yes.
What is this trigger? Why does someone calling you fat make you feel uncomfortable?
And then if you notice that, then it's like, why are you, and it's okay to say, what's triggering you about this? Get them to think about it and dive in themselves.
Well, and I knew the person who said it was a person who loved her. It wasn't like a person, it wasn't a random person off the street, right? It was like the person who said that to her was someone who loved her and was like, hey, you should do this. Like, it works. So to me, it was just more like a gentle way of calling it out, but also not like really subscribing to it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when your friends are, and I think girls, I love girl talk, right? Like when we get to all talk with each other, but I think there's a gentle way of like, oh, that's interesting that you think that, without being like girl, where are you at?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
You
like,
are fat.
like, I'm not going to subscribe to this line of thinking because it doesn't quite make sense. Further explain, or like, you know, what, that's, and, or I think if someone's talking a relationship, like, oh, he did this, and it's like, well, then why are you with him? I mean, if you want someone who's consistent, if you want someone who's there for you and that you don't feel like you have to always be on edge, why do you date this person?
Yeah. Why are you
Seems like he
accepting
doesn't have those same goals.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's not mean, especially when it's coming from someone you love.
Yeah.
Well, and it's realizing, I think kind of what was on my mind too is like, not everyone is your friend. Like, not everyone's your person that you can go to in that way. So it's like, if I know I can't receive criticism well and I'm working on that, then I can't be friends with someone that's hypercritical, right? So it's like knowing what's feeding you and what's good for you and who you should talk to about certain things.
Yes.
Because you know who you talk to about certain things. Like, you have your people for certain things.
For sure. So I think it's like being honest and aware of like, okay, well, if I want open friendships that are vulnerable, like, and this person can't do that with me, then I guess we're not as close as I want to be. And hopefully it will develop and evolve and I can test those boundaries, but mostly like until they're ready to not personalize things and take things wrong or in a negative way, like I can't be vulnerable and open and honest in a way that I want to. We're not friends like that. Yeah.
Like, we can be friends, but not the level of friendship that I like.
Totally. I think it's also understanding and accepting that not everyone is going to fulfill those needs. Like, you're not going to have one person that's your everything. Like, you could talk to everything about. It's like, no, like, there's a place and a person for certain things. And it's okay to have a circle of friends or people that you go to. I go to this person for my financial advice. I go to this person for my relationship advice. I go to this person just to BS and have fun with. This is my foodie friend. You know, it's like, that's okay.
Yeah.
To have multiple resources. And I think that's a lie that a lot of people have to realize. I thought in marriage, like, your spouse was your everything. But it's realizing, like, when I was in a relationship and things were rocky, how isolating that is.
Yes.
Like, oh, shoot, my husband's supposed to be my confidant, my everything, my where I have fun, where I have pleasure, all of it. And it's like, we're not vibing right now. Now I feel very alone. And I don't feel like anyone's looking for me or coming to get me. So it's like realizing when you kind of make one person your all and they're not available to tap into, how isolating that is. So it actually behooves you to find multiple resources and outlets to go to.
Yes.
Well, they say that's kind of why women live longer, even, is because they have bigger communities of people that they talk to.
Yes.
And why men die earlier, because they don't have as many people.
But self-isolate.
And I think women are really good at that. It's like coming to work and, you know, girl time, or like have your little mom groups, and it's like you guys are chit-chatting, you have your people for certain things. You kind of develop these little villages within your own life.
Totally.
And so...
No, I love asking other women at work, like, did you encounter this? Like, what did you do with your kids?
Yeah,
like, how did you
100%.
help them get along? Like, I feel like I'll randomly pop up with questions, and I feel like most are, like, willing to just be open and honest about
That's,
their
I think, my
experience.
favorite thing about motherhood.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining our Girl Talk episode.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Lots of good things in this episode. I'm excited.
Hopefully everyone can follow. I
Oh,
know
for sure.
the way we talk, it's like bouncing around and here and there, but hopefully everyone can relate.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on another enlightening episode of the Awaken Your Ego podcast. We hope our discussions have inspired you to explore new dimensions of health and wellness.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback fuels our mission to empower individuals on their path to optimal well-being.
Stay tuned for more insightful conversations, and until next time, may you continue to awaken your ego and embrace the extraordinary potential within.
Take care, be well, and remember, your journey matters.